Long before your first breath, long before this world first kissed your skin, your soul made a sacred choice. It chose this life, this body, this moment in time, not by chance, but by knowing far deeper than memory. You have lived before, and you will live again. But this life, right here, was not an accident. It was chosen. Every joy, every sorrow, every whispered secret in the quiet moments of pain, all of it was accepted before you arrived. And then, as you emerged into the world, you forgot. You forgot why. You forgot who. Not because you failed, but because that was part of the design. The forgetting is how the story begins. Society told you a different tale, that life begins at birth and ends at death, that you are a random cluster of atoms, just flesh and bone, hurtling through space, that there is no pattern, no purpose, no deeper meaning beneath the noise. This belief that life begins at birth and ends at death is something that society has conditioned you to think, that there is no order to anything. If you are nothing more than flesh and bone, then you have arrived here by accident. However, you have always understood, on some level, that this is not the case. This is the sensation that you receive when you meet someone for the very first time. But it seems as though you've known them for a very long time. It was not a coincidence. What was that dream you experienced, which seemed to be too genuine to be a product of your imagination? That was a recollection. The feeling of déjà vu, the worries that cannot be explained, and the strong intuition about locations that you have never been before. Each of these is a reflection of something more significant. This path has been traversed by your soul in the past. This video will help you remember the reason why you should watch it. From the minute you were born, you were immersed in a world that was created with the intention of causing you to forget. At that point in your life, the walls of a nursery became the first boundaries that you encountered. You have been provided with language. It is not to broaden your intellect, but rather to restrict it. Your name, your nationality, and your belief system were all taught to you. Labels that are intended to bind you to an identity that was never properly yours to begin with. You were informed of what was genuine and what was artificial, what was feasible, and what was so absurd that it was even stupid to debate it. But here lies a truth they've carefully kept from you. A quiet truth, ancient and unsettling, one that whispers beneath the noise of the everyday. The world you wake up to each morning, the one that feels so tangible, so unquestionably real, is not what it seems. It is a dream woven of light and shadow, a passing phase, a fleeting illusion, sculpted from energy into form, lasting only long enough to make you believe in its permanence. Most people, unknowingly, accept this illusion as absolute. They cling to it, define themselves by it, and surrender to it. Desperate to gather wealth, titles, validation, anything to give meaning to a story they were handed, not chosen. They chase pleasure, flee discomfort, and measure their worth by the weight of what they own. But nothing you possess will follow you beyond this life. And still, the illusion deepens, strengthened by a world that teaches you your value is conditional, based solely on how well you conform. You are praised for producing, consuming, obeying. A script was written long before you arrived. Go to school, find a job, buy a house, raise a family, retire, vanish. Generation after generation repeats the cycle, rarely questioning if this was ever truly life, or simply the performance of it. Yet this is the greatest deception of all. And here's where it becomes truly mysterious, because you already knew. Before your first breath, before your body was chosen, before the veil fell over your memory, your soul agreed to this. Yes, it was no accident. No force compelled you to come. You chose this. You, the being beyond name or form, willingly stepped into the illusion, knowing it would cause you to forget yourself. But why? Because Earth is not a prison. It's a school. A sacred ground where souls come to grow, to be tested, to be transformed. In this dense and beautiful reality, suffering becomes a teacher, love becomes a revelation, loss becomes a doorway. And every challenge you face is not random. It's tailored, precise, part of a larger mosaic beyond comprehension. Yet here is the paradox. This life, for all its meaning, is not meant to last. It is only a chapter in a much longer journey. A brief immersion before the soul returns to its source. But many forget that. They remain asleep, seduced by illusion, bound by desires that echo lifetime after lifetime. And so they return, over and over again. Until one day, they remember. When you become more attached to things like relationships, belongings, and prestige, it becomes more difficult to break free of those attachments. It is this attachment that the system feeds off of, which reinforces the notion that you are nothing more than your body, that life is a one-time experience, and that there is nothing that exists beyond what you can see and touch. However, those who are aware of the truth and those who have a tendency to remember are aware that this is just the beginning. Some facts are too profound to be posted on YouTube. The reason we came up with the idea for Insights Academy was to establish a free newsletter in which we reveal the most obscure and arcane information. Additionally, for a short time only, you will be given a complimentary copy of the Kybalion, which is an influential book on Hermetic wisdom. Follow the link in the description to obtain it right now. Probably you've experienced it in the past. That hushed voice in the back of your mind that is trying to tell you that something about this world doesn't feel quite right. Perhaps you've had the impression that time isn't as linear as it appears to be. You may have experienced dreams that were so vivid that they seem more real than your waking reality. On the other hand, it's possible that you've begun to recollect snippets of something that you were never supposed to remember. This is not a product of your thoughts. Your soul is attempting to rouse you from your sleep. The end does not come with death. It does not exist. Before, you have passed away. You are no longer a part of this world. You have shed your body like an old article of clothing and entered the realm of the unknown. However, as soon as you crossed across, everything began to make sense once more. Suddenly, the illusions of time, identity, and isolation began to fall away, and you recalled things that you had before dismissed. You have never been a single person in this existence. Your identity was never limited to this name, this narrative, or this brief experience. On a much higher level, you were something. There is no darkness at the moment of death. Rather, there is clarity. At that moment, your entire life appears before you, not as a collection of disjointed recollections, but rather as a single tapestry that is sewn together with significance. Nevertheless, this is the bit that they do not tell you. Your past is not the only thing you see. You can sense it. Everything you do, everything you think, and everything you ever say will eventually come back to haunt you. You will experience the agony as if it were your own if you are the one who caused it. The more love you spread, the more love you will become. The first phase in the process of moving on from this world to the next is the life review, which is being discussed here. The present moment is freeing for some people. They are ready to move on with their lives, have a fresh perspective on their lives, and have a better understanding of the things they came here to learn. For some, however, this moment is a horrifying experience. The burden of regret, the things that were not said, and the attachments that are still holding their soul in their grasp. There comes a moment when everything becomes too heavy to carry. The weight of memories, regrets, and lingering attachments presses upon a soul not yet ready to let go. And so, it lingers, caught in the delicate space between two worlds. It hovers in the twilight between what was and what comes next, clinging to the familiar illusions of a life that once felt so real. This is why some spirits remain tethered to the earthly plane. They wander, not out of punishment, but out of hesitation, unwilling or unable to release the dreams, fears, and identities they once called their own. They remain where they fell asleep, unable to wake from the illusion they helped weave. But for others, for those brave enough to surrender, something else unfolds. These souls cross the unseen threshold and are gently drawn into the next phase of existence. What lies beyond is not bound by time or matter. It is a realm where the spirit is no longer constrained by the limitations of flesh and form. Some describe it as a tunnel of light, a glowing invitation that stretches infinitely. Others speak of a horizon so vast it dissolves all sense of self. But its appearance doesn't matter. What matters is this: the real journey begins there. When the crossing is complete, the soul is lifted into a higher state of awareness. Here, there is no fear, no sorrow, no need, only understanding, clear and total. Some souls instantly feel as though they've returned home, to a place more familiar than anything they ever knew on earth. Others arrive gently, still carrying echoes of their former life. But no soul is ever lost. Each is guided, protected, and brought exactly where it needs to be. And then, a question begins to form, not asked with words, but felt deep within the spirit. What now? For many, the answer reveals itself swiftly. Unfinished lessons rise to the surface. Unresolved karma lingers like whispers on the wind. Growth calls out from the shadows, and so they make the choice to return. Even knowing they will forget once more, even knowing the veil will descend again, they choose to re-enter the cycle. A new body, a new story, a new set of trials. This is how it continues: life, death, rebirth, until the soul remembers enough to choose otherwise. But what of the rare soul who resists the pull of reincarnation? The one who, upon crossing over, does not wish to return. For such souls, the journey deepens. They begin to ascend beyond the gravitational pull of human experience, beyond the need for form. They rise into higher realms where the body is no longer necessary, where consciousness unfolds into something even more magnificent, something beyond all earthly understanding. Yet for most, the cycle endures. The soul returns again and again, not out of punishment, but out of forgetfulness. The illusion is strong, and until the lesson is truly absorbed, until the soul remembers that it was never truly bound, rebirth remains inevitable. So one must wonder, is this your final lifetime, or will you continue the dance? Not every soul transitions the same way. Just as a serpent sheds its skin, some slip easily into the next life, free from burdens. Others, still entangled in longing and sorrow, find it harder to move on. Their attachments, emotional, spiritual, or karmic, anchor them to what no longer serves. There is a place for such souls, a sacred space of release. Some call it purgatory, though it bears little resemblance to the fires of mythology. It is not a realm of punishment, but of deep reflection. Here, the soul confronts the weight of what it has not yet relinquished. Old wounds, unspoken truths, pain left unresolved, not as retribution, but as revelation. No divine judge stands there. No gavel strikes. The soul becomes its own witness, its own guide. It feels the consequences of its choices, not through condemnation, but through knowing. And for some, this moment is brief, a sigh between lifetimes. For others, it stretches like an endless echo, not because they are being held, but because they are holding on. Souls that resist their own truth remain adrift, caught between two shores. Some become shadows, ghosts of a life already ended, unable to release what has already faded. But those who are willing to let go, to surrender what no longer serves, pass through. They awaken into what some traditions call the second heaven, a space of pure thought, free of earthly bindings. Here, the soul expands. Time dissolves. Identity softens. There is no pain, only understanding. In this boundless awareness, the soul sees its many lives as threads in a tapestry. Every action, every word, every silence becomes part of an intricate design that stretches far beyond one lifetime. And still, this is not the end. For those who continue, a third realm awaits, the final sanctuary before choosing to return or to ascend further. Here, the deepest truths of the cosmos are revealed. The illusions of separation, of identity, of time, fall away. The soul remembers, not with the mind, but with being. And even then, most choose to come back, not because they must, but because something inside them still longs to learn, to grow, to complete the story. Yet a few, just a few, step beyond. They are the ones who have released all attachment, resolved all karmic threads, and remembered the truth in its entirety, that they were never bound at all. These souls do not return. They move beyond the dream of form and step into a silence so vast, so luminous, it cannot be described. They are the rare ones, the wanderers who no longer need to wander. And as for the rest of us, we are still somewhere in the middle, still searching, still learning, still clinging to the echoes of our old names. But the path is always there, and the choice, though hidden, is always ours to make. At this point, the soul is in a state of expansion, and it is no longer constrained by the conditions that the body imposes. There is no longer any time. A fluid space exists. Awareness is the only thing that exists, and along with it comes the capacity to view life from a more elevated vantage point. Souls are able to contemplate the lives they have lived, the decisions they have made, and the paths that they still have to follow when they are in this state. Here, there is no suffering. Rather, there is simply comprehension. The interwoven web of existence is revealed to them, as is the method in which every action has repercussions that spread outward, affecting innumerable lives in ways that they were not aware of. It becomes clear to them that the decisions they make in one life have an effect on the next, and that the patterns they repeat are not the result of random occurrences, but rather teachings that are waiting to be comprehended. There is, however, yet another level, a higher state, that must be reached before the cycle may start over again. The final phase before reincarnation, this is the third heaven, which is the final phase. That is the place where souls come to rest, absorb, and get ready. It is the place where the most profound cosmic truths are revealed, and it is the place where the soul fully comprehends the nature of existence before making the decision to return. This is a location of unadulterated knowledge, where all the veils are removed, and the soul is given a momentary glimpse of what is beyond the illusion of the corporeal world. On the other hand, in spite of all this comprehension, the majority of souls still choose to return, not because they are compelled to do so, but rather because they are not yet complete. They are lured back into the physical world, into new bodies, and into new experiences because there is still something that they need to learn, something that they need to balance, and something that they need to finish. Consequently, the cycle will continue. When a soul reaches the point when it decides it has had enough, what happens? What can happen? When a soul decides it no longer desires to come back. Additionally, this is a decision, but it is one that is made by only the most exceptional of souls. Almost no souls are able to flee. There is no progression beyond the cycle for them. They keep coming back, lifetime after lifetime, stuck in the same patterns, with the same lessons being repeated, and with the same illusions being pursued. And there is a straightforward explanation for this: the attachment. Attachment is the unseen connection that connects souls to the material world outside of themselves. It is the yearning for more, the appetite for wealth, the thirst for power, and the need to be recognized. The need to control, to possess, and to identify oneself by things that are just temporary is what it is. In addition, a soul is unable to depart from the material world for as long as it is tied to it. As long as it remains trapped in the never-ending cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, it will continue to return, pulling along like a magnet. But attachment is not limited to the possession of worldly objects. There are feelings involved, there is karma that has not been settled, and there are identities that a soul is unable to let go of. In the next life, a person who passes away while still being dominated by feelings of anger, resentment, or fear will carry that energy with them. Those who have lived their lives in pursuit of prestige and recognition will eventually come back to pursue them once more, because they have not yet acquired the ability to look beyond their current circumstances. Individuals who are adamant about their identity, ethnicity, religion, or nationality will be reborn into the same circumstances and will be imprisoned in the same illusions. As a result, it is extremely challenging to interrupt the cycle. It is not necessary for the soul to come back. Again and again, it makes the decision to do so because it has not yet come to terms with the fact that none of this is real. Each and every one of the sufferings, the struggles, and the never-ending pursuits are all components of the illusion, which is a complex game that the soul performs with itself. As well as that, it will continue to play till it comes to. On the other hand, forgetting is the most tricky trick of all. When a soul is reborn, it forgets everything that has happened to it. It is unable to remember the former life's lessons. It fails to remember the errors that it has already committed. It is unable to recall the times when it reached a realization in the past. And so it begins again, thinking that this is the first time, believing that it is participating in a life that is one of a kind, but in reality, it has traveled this journey an innumerable number of times before. Certain souls start to become aware of this. The feeling of déjà vu, unexplained phobias, or profound, irrational connection to particular individuals and places are all things that they experience. They have a sense of underlying unease, as if they are looking for something that they are unable to recall exactly. This is due to the fact that there are still remnants of the past. It stays below the surface, waiting to be recalled by someone. The diversions of the world, however, are too powerful for the majority of people. In addition to keeping people awake, the clamor of modern life, the chase of achievement, the allure of entertainment, and the never-ending flood of information all keep them occupied and keep them sleeping. People are always looking for love, status, and pleasure, but they never see that they are going in circles and never pause to ask themselves, have I done this before? It is not about escaping life that is the goal of breaking free from the circle. Transcending it is the essential goal. This is about coming to terms with the fact that none of this is permanent. The idea that all you believe you own and everything you believe identifies you will one day be gone. There is a return for the soul that clings. When the soul is able to let go, it will ascend. Because of this, the question that has to be answered is not if you will reincarnate, but rather whether you will awaken before you do. Are you going to recognize the error for what it really is? Or will you return once more, reiterating the same patterns, remaining stuck in the same cycle over and over again, until one day, perhaps in a lifetime from now, you make the decision to finally let go? The majority of souls are unable to leave, not because they are unable to do so, but rather because they are unaware that they are confined. They continue to live from one lifetime to the next, pursuing prosperity, pursuing love, and pursuing power, deluding themselves into believing that fulfillment is just around the corner, that one more accomplishment, one more experience, and one more lifetime will ultimately bring them fulfillment. However, it never happens. Because peace, not just any peace, is not something that can be found anywhere in the world. When you go beyond it, you will discover something about it. Escape from the cycle of rebirth does not include turning one's back on life. Transcending it is the essential goal. The key is to recognize the illusion for what it is and to make a conscious decision to no longer allow it to bind you. Having this realization is about coming to terms with the fact that everything you have ever pursued, everything you have ever grieved for, and everything you have ever thought mattered was just temporary, and that nothing temporary will ever bring you freedom that is permanent. The question now is, how do you get away? The first step is to become conscious. After you have become aware of the illusion, it will start to lose its hold on you very quickly. The things that were once considered to be of utmost significance, such as money, reputation, and social approbation, start to lose their significance. It is no longer the same manner that you used to react. You choose to give up on the pursuit of the things that you once thought would make you whole. Instead, you begin to revolve your attention inward. As a first step, mindfulness is essential. The genuine kind of mindfulness, not the watered-down version that is being marketed to you as a technique for increasing productivity. The kind that compels you to stand face to face with yourself. That which causes you to doubt all that you have ever believed in the past. Observing your ideas without attaching yourself to them is the first step toward realizing how much of your identity is simply a product of your programming. As time goes on, you start to realize that many of the things you want aren't true desires of yours, but rather were imposed on you by the world around you. When you are able to recognize this, you will be able to begin releasing them. A second important factor is meditation. Rather than as a means of evasion, it is a method of remembering. Once you have sat in silence for a sufficient amount of time, the layers begin to peel away. All of the distractions, the noise, and the false identities will eventually disappear, and the only thing that will remain is mindfulness itself. Additionally, something takes place in that area. Suddenly, you start to recall. It is not a thinking or an idea, rather, it is a profound and unshakable understanding. You recall that you were never simply this body in the first place. This name is never used alone, always and forever, not just this one, transitory life. On a much higher level, you are something. Detachment happens to be the third key. Indifferentness is not synonymous with detachment. If you cease feeling, loving, or caring, it does not indicate that you stop caring. What it means is that you do not cling. It means that you are able to fully experience life, but you do not attempt to grasp it. You take pleasure in it, but you do not feel any attachment to it. Although you adore, you do not make an effort to possess. Not only do you live, but you do not fear death, due to the fact that you are aware that nothing in this location is genuinely yours. Nothing in this place is everlasting. Therefore, this is the point. There is one last key, which is the most challenging of all the keys. The awareness that you are not the one who breaks free from the pattern is exactly what it is. In fact, the whole concept of you is a component of the illusion. Your identity, your ego, and yourself, as well as the person you believe you are, were never intended to be permanent. The situation was never permanent. There is always only a part that is being played by something considerably more significant. And when you stop identifying with the part, when you stop believing that you are just this character in a dream that is only temporary, something changes. The deception is being dispelled. The cycle is broken. What is left is something that cannot be described in words. Rarely do spirits ever arrive at this point. The majority will carry on, lifetime after lifetime, being drawn by their ambitions, by lessons that they have not yet completed, and by the burden of their own attachments. However, only a select few will be able to see through it. But only a select handful will go beyond. There is always the option available. Depending on how long you choose to continue, the cycle will continue. However, the moment you stop playing the game, the moment you stop believing in the illusion, and the moment you let go, you will be free. Every single lifetime is a decision. However, the majority of people are unaware that they are producing one. They are brought into the world. The road that has been laid out for them is followed. They live just as they are instructed to live. They eventually pass away, just to start the process all over again, because they never pause for a sufficient amount of time to realize that they had any kind of option at all, rather than because they are compelled to do so. You have arrived at that fork in the road right now. For a specific purpose, you are being told this. There's a chance, perhaps a quiet whisper in your soul, that this is the very first moment you've ever truly questioned what you've been told about existence. A subtle knowing may have always lived within you, buried beneath layers of noise and routine, waiting for its moment. You couldn't name it, but you felt it. Or maybe, just maybe, you've known all along, and now, here you are, standing at the threshold you've sensed but never fully seen, where everything begins to make sense. Most spirits will remain asleep. They will cling tightly to their names, their titles, their desires, and dreams, convinced that the next achievement, the next possession, the next love will complete them. But it never does. It never will. Because nothing in this world is truly ours. Every role, every bond, every triumph, it's all borrowed. And when the time comes, it will all be returned. And on that day, many will find themselves exactly where they began, facing the same choice again. Round and round, the wheel turns. Only a few will awaken, truly awaken, to see through the illusion, to recognize that life as we know it is a single moment in the eternal river of being. To awaken is not to escape, but to remember, to know that you are not your name, not your face, not even your story. You are the awareness behind it all. This awareness, it has always been with you. It has watched as you lived countless lives, in countless forms, across countless realms. It will continue to watch until the moment you remember that you no longer need to play the part of human to evolve. But make no mistake, waking up is not easy. The world is loud by design. Its distractions are deliberate, woven intricately to lull you into forgetting. You'll be told what matters. You'll be shown what success looks like. Those around you will reinforce the illusion because they too are lost inside it. You'll be kept busy, endlessly chasing things that never fill the quiet ache within. And if you let it, the noise will drown out the voice that's been softly calling to you all along. But some souls, rare ones, resist the noise. They stop running. They stop chasing. They stop playing the game. Instead, they turn inward. They question everything. They unlearn what they were taught. And slowly, piece by piece, they begin to remember. Not because something new is revealed, but because the truth was always there, just beneath the surface, waiting for you to see it. So here we are. Is this just another passing moment? Another brief flicker of insight soon to be forgotten as you return to your routines? Or is this the moment when you choose a different path? When you take your first step toward remembrance? Because one path leads you back into the loop, back into another life, another forgetfulness. And the other leads beyond the illusion, beyond time and form, beyond everything you once believed to be real. Very few souls take that path. But if you're still here, still listening, still feeling that quiet pull in your chest, then maybe, just maybe, you're one of them. There's a reason you've come this far. This isn't random. Nothing in this universe ever is. The fact that these words are finding you right now in this exact moment is proof that your spirit is ready. Maybe this is the first time you've questioned the nature of your life, or maybe you've been searching for answers all your life. Either way, you've arrived. This is the moment where everything shifts. This is your choice point. Most will forget. Tomorrow will come, and they will return to their schedules, their habits, their noise. But you, if you choose, can remember. They are drowning in distractions, slowly, silently, like a dream slipping through their grasp. The truth is there, within reach, yet it falls away like grains of sand through open hands. And so they do not pause. They keep running, chasing, believing that just one more achievement, one more romance, one more lifetime will finally make them whole. But it never does, because wholeness isn't something you find, it's something you remember. A rare few awaken, and when they do, the world no longer holds them in the same way. They no longer react blindly. They stop playing this game altogether. Instead, they watch. From the quiet stillness of awareness, they begin to see clearly how people cling to things that are destined to fade, how they chase distractions to escape the silence within, how they pursue desires that were never truly their own. And as they watch, something shifts. The illusion begins to crumble. The world that once seemed so solid, so unshakable, begins to dissolve. In the cracks, something ancient stirs, truth rising like morning mist from a forgotten lake. It has always been there, waiting, not hidden, but overlooked. You don't need to turn your back on life to be free. You only need to loosen its grip on your soul. The path is not about denial. It is about liberation. To walk through this world with presence, but without attachment. To live without fear. To no longer be pulled back into the cycles that bind you lifetime after lifetime. And it begins by remembering who you are, beyond the body, beyond the name, beyond this fleeting moment in time. But awakening is only the beginning. Real freedom comes when your life begins to reflect this knowing, when you stop seeking purpose outside yourself and begin to live from within, when your actions no longer arise from fear or longing, but from a deep, unshakable truth that you are something far greater than you've ever been told. There are some truths that cannot be fully spoken in the open. Some knowledge must be remembered, not taught. That's why we created Insights Academy, a quiet space away from the noise. A free newsletter where we dive deeper into the hidden, the sacred, the forgotten. And for a short time, we're offering a complimentary copy of the Kybalion, a timeless work on Hermetic wisdom that speaks to the mystery beneath the surface of things. The link is in the description. Most will walk away from this unchanged. They'll return to their routines. They'll choose comfort over awakening, familiarity over freedom, sleep over truth. But not all. A few, just a few, will feel it. A quiet recognition, a stirring deep within the soul, a memory of something they cannot name but have always known. If you are one of them, you already understand what comes next. If this message resonates with you, say it out loud or leave a comment. I understood it.